Notification. The content from When Justice Goes AWOL podcast is for informational purposes only. Views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not reflect those of our sponsors or employers. While efforts are made to ensure accuracy in content, information provided may not always be complete or current. Listeners rely on information at their own risk. When Justice Goes AWOL podcast is not affiliated with the military. Warning, this episode contains depictions of violent crime and other subjects of sensitive nature. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me again today. My name is Nicole Charcotti, and this is When Justice Goes AWOL. Last week, we were talking a little bit about Nick Hokema, the day that my mom and I went to the Tumwater Police Station and found out about him. Afterwards, it was a bit of a whirlwind. I wanted to know what had happened. I wanted to know who was responsible, who wouldn't. Because Nick and I were not married, it made it difficult to get answers. I actually found out that Jonathan Kang Lee was a suspect, not from the police and not from the military. I found out from a reporter from the Seattle Times. I wasn't expecting a call from any news outlets, but they called me first and said, "Are you aware of the suspect? This is the first I'm hearing about it. Can you tell me who the suspect is?" And they told me a little bit about Jonathan Kang Lee, that he was a soldier who had went AWOL from Joint Base Lewis McChord because he was due to go on trial for, I looked at the charge sheets, apparently he had forced himself on children, and it goes into graphic detail about what was exactly done to these children, and I won't repeat it here, so I've included the charging documents in this presentation. I felt let down. The fact that they weren't really keeping in contact with me, it upset me because we had been through so much together, and I had done so much for him, and he had done so much for me. I was a widow without rights, as his stepmother put it. The following interview is between me and someone who knows a little bit more about the first set of charges, and they are here today to tell us a little bit more about the first charges of Jonathan Kang Lee, every reason why he should have been put in pretrial confinement, and all the times that he could have been put in pretrial confinement, what happened after he went AWOL, and how they found out that Nick had been. So, how did the allegations come up with the family in that circumstance?
I believe the eldest child, the eldest victim, had told somebody at school, and that is how the investigation started.
Okay, and mandatory reporting procedures, and I'm sure that's a whirlwind, but so charges were filed, correct?
Yes, the local CPS here had gotten in contact with the military CID, their investigative unit, because he was in the Army, and they kind of took it over from there.
Yes, he was a specialist in the Army for the 201st Expeditionary Military Intelligence Brigade, last I looked up.
Correct, yes, right there at JBLM.
So the crimes here happen in Washington. It's reported to the school district. Charges are filed. What was his rationale, his excuse? Did you get a chance to talk to him at all about this?
CID had prompted to confront the perpetrator directly.
Okay.
We had tried calling there in the office, couldn't get a hold of him. So then a text was sent, and he was out eating with one of his friends at IHOP. And I remember right when I left, he had said, "I can explain, I'll call you back." And so the CID agent had told me, if he calls you back, call me first and then call him so that we can do a three-way and I can have it recorded. I tried calling the CID agent back. He was calling me a million times, so I just had to answer the call and record the call myself at that point.
I saw that in some court documents that that it was attempted to make contact and with CID and they weren't answering.
So. Exactly. Yeah, I had sent a million texts, called a million times. I was like, okay, I can't hold off on this any longer. And basically the excuse was him being deployed and just coming back, and he promised to make it up. He wouldn't do it again. He doesn't know why he did it, and that he'd be coming. Let's just talk it out.
Just talk it out.
Right. As if there would be any talking.
I can think of some things that would happen, and
Right.
screaming might be involved, but
Yeah.
definitely like maybe talking at first, and then
No, 100%.
there's this recording of him basically admitting what he's done.
100%.
I've read court documents and I'm kind of familiar with what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be willing to share with what that process was like when you say, okay, I've got this recording, he's basically admitted to it. Now
Yeah.
what?
So at first you're like, that's great. It's great you got it. Send it over to me immediately. So I sent it over to the agent that was in Washington because mind you, it was an agent here in Georgia and an agent here in Washington. The one in Washington that I first had was phenomenal, great to work with. It was fun, really great. The one here in Georgia was the one who didn't answer their phone. They were slow to reply. It was just not the best experience. Yeah, so I got it back to the CID agent in Washington. But then I hear from the Lords a few days later. At one point, they were going to give the case back to the local sheriff, I guess, police department in Washington. But once I got this call, they gave it back to the Army, hoping they could use it in court because Washington is a two-party state. While Georgia's only a one-party state, Washington is a two-party state. So because I didn't tell him I was recording the call, that's where it became an issue.
The two-party state laws and just the defendant had a reasonable expectation of privacy when he's talking about committing these atrocious crimes.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense to me. That law makes zero sense.
And, I've talked to people about like, are there ways we could change that out? And
Mm-hmm.
what if you just made an addendum, if you will, just like, okay, two-party state laws apply, except when they're talking about cases of like child abuse or
Right.
child SA crimes. Yeah,
Right.
just anything like that of that heinous nature, you prosecute that, and it's
100%. The whole thing ended up not even being used in court because of that, the two-party state, which I thought the Army would go by federal, and so they wouldn't have to adhere to Washington state rules, but their court is different. I don't know what happened, but it wasn't able to have been used in court.
That's interesting too.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at the charge sheet too, and I'm seeing, specifications of a SA of a child, and there's one charge, charge 2, violation of UCMJ Article 134 that's actually crossed out. The specification of CSAM materials, CP materials, production of that. Was there anything that ever came of that?
I don't believe so. They said there may have been pictures he'd take or videos he had taken of his phone of the events, but nothing ever came of that. When they weren't able to get his phone, I believe, but when they searched the girls' devices, because I guess sometimes he'd make them send him things.
Oh,
Yeah, he had wiped it by then.
that goes back into two-party state. It's like, well, we want you to talk to this guy, but make sure you're in a controlled environment where he knows he's talking about this crime so he can choose what he says.
Exactly.
That is disgusting.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful. So I am so sorry that that happened to the victim's family, and I can't imagine the outrage that the mother feels, and just even the children that he assaulted and just violated in the worst way. They get to grow up with that feeling of injustice. So
no, 100%. Yeah, definitely lots of counseling and therapy to help kind of heal and move past it all, because we don't it's we don't want any perpetrator to have any control over the victim's life any more than they've already done. You know what I mean? So I think they're working really hard trying to move past it and leave it in the past and kind of just heal and try to forget it happened. I know it's impossible, but do our best to kind of move on.
Yeah, work with it on, independent terms, like however they want to process it in the best way that they can. Just let them do it.
Yeah.
The trial, the first trial that Lee was supposed to go to.
Yeah.
He was not placed in pretrial confinement, and I can't imagine that sat well with the victim's family. And
no, it had come up multiple times, asking why. And they basically said, oh, he doesn't seem like he's run. He's cooperating with us. He's meeting up with his lawyers. We think it'll be fine.
We think it will be fine.
Right.
That instills a lot of confidence, doesn't it? Well, we think that, Fukushima won't blow.
Right.
And you see how well that worked. But
yeah.
The family came up to take this awful, awful person to trial.
The first
And
time.
the first time,
Yeah.
uh, when were they made aware that hey, we can't find him?
On a flight there,
Mm.
and they said, "Hey, we're not doing court." Because originally he had agreed to a guilty plea deal. Flight there, he rescinded it. So the family was stuck there for a few days, had no vehicle to ride around, was just stuck in a hotel for days until they were able to fly them back to Georgia.
No explanation, just, oh, he's not going
Just
to court.
oh, actually, he rescinded the plea deal. He does want to take it to court. So that added on a whole other year of waiting to go to court.
Oh, he's just jerking that family around at that point. Just,
He was.
yeah.
He was. It was a mother and her
Ugh.
3 children. It
Oh.
was not a fun time.
And that's another thing that needs to change too. It's like you don't get to change your mind willy-nilly once you talk about something and you're set to do it. It's like you
Unfortunately,
don't,
he was able to. I
yeah.
think that was the most infuriating part. It's like, okay, we thought this was going to be done. We can move past. We can start healing. And then they're like, hey, I know you just landed, but bad news. We flew out here for no reason. You wasted all this time traveling, put all this effort, and we'll see you in a year, basically.
Any of the family's expenses covered? Like, I mean, I would hope they would cover airfare and things like
They
that.
do cover airfare and hotel on base. They tried to have it to where we'd pay it and they refund us. But
Oh,
the mother at the time wasn't getting any income from the army. She was a single mom of 3 kids, was trying to find work. She had a very young one that wasn't in school yet. So she didn't have the funds to cover the hotel. She was like, no, you guys need to cover this now. You drove us all the way out here for no reason. You need to cover this fee. So they were able to get it taken care of in the end. She did have to, of course, get food, and yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
oh,
It was not a good trip.
not a good trip to start, not a good trip to finish.
Right.
So that was the first time.
Yes.
January 15th, as you know, is the day that Nick Kokuma was murdered
mm,
by the perpetrator, Lee. And
mm.
my understanding is it was the trial was set to go and then he just left.
So, and it's so fun you say that. I know mother of the victims had asked her lawyers, is there any way you can confine the perpetrator like 3 days? Because she just had a feeling. She was married to this man for, she knew him for 3 years, over 3 years, almost 4 years at this point. She knew in fight or flight, he's flight.
Yeah.
She asked them specifically. They assured her, no, he's cooperating with his lawyers. He hasn't given us a reason to put him in confinement. So imagine her surprise when, and I do have to add this, they didn't tell her that he escaped until the day of the trial. So all they told her was, hey, we're adding extra guards to you. Stay in your hotel. We recommend you don't leave the base. And
Hmm.
she was confused. She was like, why can't we leave the base? She left the base anyways, because she was like, they're just being extra, like, he's fine. They didn't tell her that he went AWOL. So what's interesting is the perpetrator knew the family so well because they actually were thinking about going to that mall, but it was too long of a drive, so they just went to the local Tacoma mall.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so can you imagine the fact that
Uh,
they didn't even let the family know he had escaped and was on the run?
oh my God.
And
That
infuriating.
that's not just negligence. That's pure failure. That is just
100%.
100% failure on their part.
So imagine the surprise when the first day of court rolls around and you're like, hey, we need to let you know something. They pulled the mother to the side and she's like, okay, what's up? They're like, he won't be at trial. And she said, that's interesting. Why not? And so then at that point, they fill her in the details. He went AWOL. They didn't say anything about anything that happened to any other victims. All they told her at that point was that he was missing. He tried to run away. So they will continue the trial since they had already, this is the second time they'd flown this family out. They will continue the trial without him there. And they said the reason they didn't tell the victim's mother was because they didn't want it to affect things she said in court, which I feel like is covering up for the perpetrator once again.
Yeah, just, oh, he didn't mean it. He's having a bad day, but just say what you're gonna say, and we'll get to it when we get to it.
Right.
He had obviously killed Nick by that point. And one thing
Mm.
about that trial is I went to the court martial records, and they talk about that trial with the first family. And it said that he was convicted, but they miss a couple of words, in absentia. That's not very accurate, is it?
No, no, they did try to hide it a lot. They didn't, because this was a failure on the Army's part. This was a failure on whoever was supposed to ensure that he was going to be. Apparently, he had somebody that was supposed to watch over him.
Yeah.
They didn't do their job.
No, obviously not.
No,
Our
it
best
wasn't.
and brightest.
It wasn't until the family got back to Georgia that they find out that a life was lost.
Oh, good. That they found out about Nick.
Right.
Everything snowballed after that. And I can't imagine things were easier for the family just because now it's like, but they did everything that the mother did everything she could. She tried to warn these people. She
She
obviously
did.
knows him better than they do. And just, yeah,
Yes.
definitely more flight than fight, which is
100%.
ironic if you're in the military. So,
Yeah. I just my heart goes out to them. I know that she did try multiple times to
yeah.
ask, because also I know the perpetrator was apparently getting things booked in her name and not paying them. So when she looked at her credit, she was like, "What is this?" And like, she didn't find out until after the trial, because she looked at her credit report and was like, "What is this stuff? Why am I not being allowed to get things?" And that's when she found out that he had kind of messed with her credit as well. So apparently, he went on a booked an Airbnb, went on a nice trip with the mistress, and it's just it was really hard. It was really
Hmm.
hard, all due to negligence on the Army's part, 100%.
Oh my gosh. More excuses than solutions.
100%.
Well, this didn't work because, and it's like, well, this
Mm-hmm.
didn't work because somebody felt it was more important to let him out of their sight than it was to talk about what was cool on TV with their other soldiers or,
Right. And I think what was most hurtful to the mother of the victims after was they said, "Oh, well, in hindsight 2020, I guess he did have a lot to lose."
he was facing 64 years of confinement.
Hello. Oh, so now now he has a lot. Now that you guys lost him. Oh, yeah, I guess when we think about it, he did have a lot to lose. No, duh.
And these are people, it's their job to come up with these
Exactly.
conclusions. I mean, I would mess up at work and it's like, oh man, I got to go back and edit an entry in the daily reports because I misspelled a few things. It's like, no, I got somebody killed. Whoops.
Right.
And I'd imagine the mother just was so furious on behalf of the other family, and just the other family is furious on behalf of her family. And it's just,
Yes.
it
Yeah,
is.
that's when she reached out to you and Nick's mom and was just like, hey, this is the information, do what you will, but just know that I did ask them repeatedly, lock him up, and it's disregarded.
Yeah.
And I feel like she felt it was a slap in the face. You're like, oh well, you know him well enough to know that, but you didn't know him well enough to know that he was doing that to your kids. It was kind of like, you know what I mean?
Did
It's kind
somebody
of like,
actually say that to her?
no, it's just how she felt. That's why she
Yeah.
wasn't taken seriously.
They might as well have at that point. Just like,
Right.
oh, you're just a woman. You're not in the
Listen,
military.
I guess you didn't know him that well, kind of thing, is kind of how it felt when she just kept getting like, oh no, it's fine. He hasn't given us a reason.
Because he was put on administration,
Yeah.
administrative duties, like basically sweeping paperwork, which is just where you
Right.
want your accuracy and paperwork to go. That guy.
Right. And I think everybody was under the impression around him that the victim was making up to get back at him, or these were false allegations. I don't think anybody really took it seriously and thought it was just the victim's mother being malicious. I think they're like, oh, he's a chill individual. He would never. I don't think she was taken seriously by anybody except the children's psychologists that worked with the kids, the forensics people, and her lawyers. I don't think anybody else took her seriously. Yeah.
That's a lot. I I can't understand their rationale for any of the decision making that they didn't do. But I mean, I think it's important that people know these things because this is what you don't hear in the news when
Oh,
people talk
absolutely
about these
not.
cases.
Right. Right. They try to cover a lot up and make it, oh, we caught the bad guy. This is what we did, but they're not showing everything else that kind of happened in between. Voices that weren't heard, things that went unseen.
People who shouldn't have jobs who still have jobs for some
Right.
reason.
Exactly. I know the mother of the victims did reach out to the sergeant major of the army because they had messed up some paperwork and they were trying to say that they couldn't fix it. So she had actually went all the way to the top, and they were able to kind of look more into the case and send their condolences, and they got it fixed for her, reversed in the system, which
Mm.
the victim advocate said, "Oh, that really never happens." But it's like, why'd she have to advocate that hard for herself when that's also what they're there for?
Yeah.
It's just there's lots of failures on all parts within that system, and there needs to be more policies and people put in place to make sure these kinds of things don't happen again.
Yeah. And sadly, it's like there was that policy for pretrial confinement that was not used. And I've been learning more up on that. And it was at
Mm,
the commanding officer's discretion at one point at whether or not to use pretrial confinement.
wow,
And that was before the laws changed in 2024. So, yeah, back when charges were filed, and they could have put him in pretrial confinement. And yeah, he probably would have gotten time credited, like for served time in pretrial, but Nick would still be here.
that's right,
I mean,
right.
it's like you can't have
I
policies like that if you're not even going to follow
if you're not
them.
going to use them, I that's interesting. Do you know who the commanding officer was?
David Charles Hazelton was they just switched over commanding ownership like of that unit to somebody else, but David Charles Hazelton was the original commanding officer for the 201st when Lee was there.
Wow.
But so the next part of the podcast that I'm going to be working on this weekend is going to be talking about the trial process that I went through when Lee was brought in for the murder of Nick. And
Yeah.
there's still a lot that has happened that a lot of people don't know about because I'd imagine that you interviewed with a few news stories about this case.
Actually, no, I have not.
Oh,
Yeah, someone
yeah.
reached out, but they never kind of followed up. And I wonder if there's any way we can put David C. Hazelton on blast. I think it's ridiculous the Army hasn't punished him in any way either. He just got an award. June 17th, 2025. He's given an award. General McFarland.
Yep.
Are you serious?
Yep, he got a certain medal of commendation. He also published an article about how crucial military intelligence is to operations, and like,
What intelligence?
what intelligence? You've
That's an
shown us that you
oxymoron at
have
this
none.
point.
Yeah,
Exactly. I feel like there needs to be something filed on that. He needs to get that taken away. I feel like things need to have start a petition, something, write to somebody.
and I've tried to write to Patty Murray. I've tried to write to Maria Cantwell, and none of them are interested. So if
Yeah,
I
I
can get
wrote.
enough,
Yeah, I wrote to Patty too and didn't get anything back, unfortunately.
they have more important things to worry about, like canceling Colbert and
Pathetic.
yeah,
Well, I just like to think the karma and
God forbid.
somebody felt the way that he did. He wouldn't be too happy about it.
Yeah, no, it just, oh,
Pathetic.
nobody deserves to go through that. But the fact that he was negligent enough that somebody did, I mean, there has to be some actions have consequences in this situation.
And that I think that's the whole issue with the army is that there is none.
Yeah, it's like you're not infallible. You are prone to a lot of bad behavior, especially JBLM. If you look at their court martial website,
Oh yes.
so many CSAM crimes that come out of
Yes.
there. It
It
is, it's
it
disgusting.
this whole thing has really flipped my perspective on the army specifically and the people who serve.
Well, when
And
you're
it's
putting the National
sad.
Guard in cities saying there's a crime problem when you're just picking people off the street, that doesn't help either.
Yeah, and I'm trying not to generalize, right? We try not to generalize, but it's so sad. And then seeing things like this, oh, he let a criminal run loose, and who knows, he could have been harming other people that just are scared or haven't come forward yet. We have no idea.
Right. Uh,
That's infuriating.
well, maybe we can spread some awareness and make it a little less infuriating.
Yeah.
I cannot thank you enough for talking to me about this.
Oh,
And
no problem.
I
I
re-
love that you're trying to get the story out there, and it needs to be heard. These kind of stories need to be heard because and there's people who blindly support these kind of people too. And
yeah,
it's like, these stories need to be heard. You always need to have an unbiased view on every kind of military government position. Like, stay unbiased and see it for what it is, not for what you want it to be,
yeah. This group
what you're
think
perceiving it to be. Yeah, yeah. The
it's the
hive
group
mind
think
is
mentality. Like there's no independent thinking.
exactly, unfortunately, seems to be the case. But yeah, I thank you so much for giving this family and the victims a voice and all of this.
Yeah, and because I mean, if the voices aren't heard, how do we know? I think I'm allowed to be angry. I'm allowed to be furious. But I wasn't allowed to talk about everything that was going on, and it was driving me mad. Don't taint the investigation. Don't taint the trial. We want to make sure that this guy gets the maximum sentence, like you should have the first time, before Nick was killed. There's an article about pretrial confinement rates and the rate that drug crimes versus crimes of SA. The rate of pretrial confinement for drug crimes was almost twice of that as it is for SA. Why? I honestly think that someone who would take advantage are assaultive towards other people, and not just SA, like violent crimes. I really do think that more protections need to be put in place. I was told by prosecution that, well, he probably wouldn't have been put in pretrial anyway. Change that policy. You had him with that phone call. Who knows that he did this? Who knows that children wouldn't lie about things like this? He obviously did it. He ran. What if you run away from the trial that you're supposed to go to, and then you kill somebody else? Are you guilty before that, or how does that work? And the trial was enough of a fiasco that I went through, that Nick's family had to go through, that I don't wish that on anybody. The trial itself was just an example of them not wanting to look bad, that they had a handle on this when they didn't, that they had control of the situation the whole time. Nick just had to die. And they're still not being done right. Next episode, we will be focusing more on the trial itself, the arguments that the defense had for why he did what he did. I should know because I was there, along with my family and Nick's family. At the very least, I deserve a little bit of accountability on their part. My life was destroyed. I lost my job. I lost my apartment. I lost Nick. I lost almost everything. But it really infuriates me when somebody hides behind faulty policy and procedure, just saying, it's a complicated problem. Is it really? Crack open the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and let's get a Sharpie. Let's really make some reform. There's no accountability anymore. That's one of the major problems. I'm really hoping you stick around with me for the next episode because, in a weird way, it only gets worse. Having to sit through the justifications and the constant trying to explain himself was worse. Because if we do learn more about this, if we keep our heads on swivels, and that is the sad part, I am more afraid of our own armed forces doing something to our civilians now than I am any foreign threat. Something needs to change. The way we handle these crimes needs to change, so hey, maybe it's a deterrent. Maybe other people will actually start taking it seriously. Thank you for bearing with me, everybody. So next week we will be looking at the trial of Jonathan Kang Lee for the murder of Nick Hokema. I'm Nicole Charcoti, and this is When Justice Goes AWOL.